Welcome to Chapter 1 of the online course A Rich Man's Guide to Ruling America. My name is Arnold and I'll be your instructor. Today's chapter is all about how to keep your everyday average Americans busy. So busy, in fact, that they are unable to make any positive changes in their lives. Which means we get to keep getting richer and richer. If you missed the previous video detailing our introductory chapter, I highly recommend you watch that one first, since it goes through who we are and what the point of all of this is. One quick warning: if you are not rich, you need to close this video and go watch something else like Logan Paul, or whatever it is you people watch. Just pretend you never even heard about this video because this is not for you. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump right in. So, yes, we want to keep them busy. But that begs the question, why do we want to keep them busy? Well, in order for us, the millionaires and billionaires who run this country, to continue bribing the government, polluting the environment, and exploiting our employees or tenants, we have to make sure that A, people don't notice that we're doing all those things, and B, if they do notice, then they are far too busy to do anything about it. That is how we protect the status quo. That is how we continue to get rich, and we keep the rest of them in line. When regular average Americans are too busy, they are unable to improve their situations. Look at this list of things they won't be able to do. Less likely to start a business, that means less competition for us. Less likely to get a college education. Good, we don't need radical free thinkers, we just need obedient workers. Less likely to organize unions or other groups. Perfect, we don't want to see any kind of political activism growing or gaining momentum on their side. Less likely to do their own research. This allows us to get away with so many things because people just don't know what's going on around them. They are also less likely to take care of themselves. Meaning we can cash in on those opportunities by selling them quick solutions. Since they don't have time to cook, they can buy our microwavables and our fast foods. Since they don't have time to exercise, they can buy our diet pills. Etc., etc. This strategy of keeping them busy is so powerful because it's not like we are physically shackling them or confining them to a jail cell or anything like that. No, we still provide them with the illusion of freedom. They still think they have the potential for positive change, they're just too busy to actually make plans and go through with it. As we all know, time is an extremely valuable resource. Time is like power, and we want to take away as much power from these poor people as we possibly can. Alright, so we know what we want. We want to keep Americans busy, but how do we accomplish that? How do we get people to willingly or unwillingly give up their time? It might sound like a difficult task, but really it's actually quite simple. It just requires a combination of different tactics. And we are going to start with the single most powerful tactic that we have. I want you to try and think of what that could be. What's the biggest obligation a human being could have on this planet? A baby. A child. I am talking from birth all the way up to 18 years old and maybe even beyond that. The more the better. But how do we give them babies? Simple, we ban abortion. It's really not even funny, or maybe it is, how powerful this one strategy is. Not just because it lines up so perfectly with today's theme of keeping them busy, but also because it synergizes so well with some of our other tactics. We will talk about synergy a little bit later, but basically it means that abortion works incredibly well when paired with other strategies like religion, for example. But I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, so for today we will just focus on how this works, why this works, and most importantly, how it helps us in the long run. Now, a lot of this is going to seem pretty obvious to us, but you'd be surprised just how much the average American does not know about parenthood. And that is not by accident, since we are also actively trying to cripple their education system. But essentially, by us banning abortion, we can guarantee that a large portion of the population walk right into the biggest obligation of their lives totally unprepared. Because raising a child eats up a lot of time. Obviously. And there is also the mental bandwidth. That stress really takes a toll on people. They are going to be super busy, and that's exactly what we want. Now, in addition to the time loss and stress, just having a child can also lead to an entire laundry list of other problems for them, which means opportunities for us to capitalize on them. For example, they might file for divorce, so all you law firms out there, go get that money. They might give birth to a child with special needs. That is like a whole new marketing niche right there with virtually untapped business potential. Not to mention all the merchandising that can be sold to parents at literally every stage of a child's development. So many products, medicines, insurance packages, even entire vehicles. You see what I mean? People will buy your giant SUV if you convince them that it's safer for their kids. Even if SUVs have been proven to flip over way more easily than cars. So now let's look at long term. If you didn't know, the fertility and birth rate of developed countries has been steadily decreasing. Which is not good. If our corporations and stock portfolios want to grow, then we need a steady supply of workers. When older folks retire, we need younger people to replace them. Therefore, more births mean more workers for us. Those workers get a little bit of spending money, they become customers who purchase our various products and services. And that money gets put right back into the economy, keeping the gears turning. And the system continues to stay profitable. Now look up here. This is the first of many synergy bonuses that we are going to see throughout the course. Today's synergy bonus involves religion. Around 70 years ago, we, the wealthy, figured out that we can package our abortion ban under the veil of religion. Because we can easily argue that abortion is murder and therefore it goes against God. Doesn't matter that we secretly don't really care about the babies. The babies are merely a tool for us to control people. I want to share a quote with you guys from a Methodist pastor named David Barnhart. The entire paragraph is good, but I want to zoom in on just this one portion I highlighted right here. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege. That is so true. It is so convenient for us. It costs us basically nothing to ban abortion. And in return we get so much from these babies. It's really quite amazing. Then the real magic starts when the religious followers pick up this idea and run with it. All we have to do is convince them that they hold the moral high ground. And off they go, they start doing the work for us. They will spread the ban abortion message for us. All because they subscribe to Christianity, and they feel like they're doing the right thing. In the land of the free, it is really incredible that we are able to make people willingly give their freedoms away. And finally, to finish off the abortion segment, we have this idea of job-to-worker ratio. More babies mean more people who will be looking for jobs. It also means more parents who will be willing to taking a job, even if that job sucks. So, what does that look like from our point of view? Well, we want to keep workers' salaries from getting too high. We do that by ensuring that there are always more workers than there are jobs. When lots of workers are all competing for the same job, then they are going to be less fussy about the salary. So, then we can lower the salary, we can remove certain benefits. Basically, we want them to feel desperate so that they're willing to take pennies on the dollar and still be happy about it, or else someone else might take the job. Now, if the ratio ever flips into the other direction, where now we have too many jobs and not enough people to fill them, then the people have more power, and they can negotiate for a higher salary. We don't want that. We would prefer to pay them as little as possible, all while keeping a long list of other potential candidates. That way, if they ever get out of line, they know we can just get rid of them and hire the next person waiting for the job. Simple as that. They are easily replaced and expendable. Now, despite all of our best efforts, we are still not going to be able to 100% destroy all of their free time. Some people are still going to find a way to escape parenthood. Some people don't even have jobs because maybe they're being supported by someone else. Who knows what the case might be? The point is, we can't always burden them with an obligation. So, what do? Well, in that case we entertain the hell out of them. Thousands of years ago, entertainment was really only something that the rich could afford. But eventually the ruling class figured out that if we take on the costs of making that entertainment publicly available and easy to access, then that means the population will be more easily distracted. It puts more attention on things we want them to focus on and puts less attention on us and the things we do behind the scenes. Let me show you some examples. The TV show Keeping Up with the Kardashians is the perfect example of a distraction. It sucked up a ton of time out of people's schedules by watching it. It offered nothing educational or meaningful to the audience. It gave the audience something to gossip about, so now they're busy talking about it even when they're not watching it. And it also helped create envy and jealousy. Since the Kardashians are rich, the audience would be captivated by that lifestyle, and they couldn't get enough of it. Then the audience wants to go out and buy designer shoes and handbags. Then the audience wants to go out and buy cosmetics and take selfies. A lot of people ask the question, why are the Kardashians even famous? Well, this is why. It is because they are a really good distraction. Why do people do drugs if they know it's bad for them? Well, because they're addictive, because they're distracting. It is the same exact thing here. It's a good TV show for all the wrong reasons. Which makes it great for us. One thing that historians and anthropologists agree on is the tribalistic tendency of human beings. Which means that we prefer to associate ourselves with like-minded individuals. So, in other words, we will naturally band together to form an us versus them type of mentality. And nowhere is this more prominently on display than in the realm of sports entertainment. In sports you already have the tribes, they're the teams. In sports, you already have competitive behaviors. My tribe is better than your tribe. Big, macho, peacocking displays of strength and solidarity. They even wear face paint to represent their tribe's colors. I mean, what could be more tribalistic than that? So how do we use this to our advantage? We pour money into it, obviously. Build gigantic stadiums. Create sponsorships. It's a great way to promote your brand and reach new audiences. Brand recognition is incredibly important. With so many sporting events happening, your company can be a household name in no time. Then, on top of that, go ahead and pay some of these athletes to endorse your products. Lots of sports fans quite literally worship these athletes, so if LeBron James says to go buy your product, you better believe that people are going to buy it. Now this is a relatively new one. This strategy only started to emerge within the last 20 years or so. We have noticed a lot of value in promoting hip-hop culture and rap music specifically. Now, there are probably some sociologists or psychology professors out there who can explain this better than I can. But basically, by promoting hip-hop culture, we are also promoting ignorance and consumerism. Okay, so stay with me here. The ignorance comes from the idea of self-importance which is baked into the hip-hop culture. That self-importance teaches them they are above other people. That they are better than other people when they're really not. It teaches them that they are too cool for school. So they don't want to learn anything because learning is for nerds. It also comes with this amazing slang term of acting hard. Acting hard means pretending to be strong, whether it be by flashing money or having attitude. It makes people want to act cool all the time. Which is great for us. Because if Jamal is too busy acting hard, then that means he's not going to share his struggles. He's not going to talk about his problems because that would be a sign of weakness. Instead, he's going to make it look like there's no problems whatsoever. That's the consumerism part that I mentioned earlier. Look, Jamal just bought a Gucci bag, he is doing just fine. Look, Jamal just put some rims on his car, he doesn't have a problem with rising rent prices. All of this also gives people the illusion that success is within their reach. Like they too can maybe become a rapper one day and become rich. All they have to do is emulate them. Look the same way, talk the same way, buy the same products, and continue to act hard. And all they did in the end was make us get richer. The last thing I want to share about entertainment is the effect that it has on people's perceptions of their own daily lives. People should have just enough entertainment that makes them feel good and comfortable. The entertainment should always be there like a good friend or a reliable neighbor. Because when times get tough, we want people to be able to turn to the entertainment for relief, and to feel better. Take their mind off things. Like work sucks, but hey, at least you can come home and watch TV or scroll for hours on your cell phone, right? That's still quite a luxury if you think about it. And it serves as the minimum base level of comfort. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that now they have something to lose. Something they don't want to lose. So, if they ever start planning some kind of grassroots revolution or violent uprising, they will have to wrestle with the very real possibility that this minimum base level comfort could disappear. And they probably won't want to risk that. They won't want to take that chance. If they had nothing to lose, then yeah, they would go all in on revolution. They might even pick up a gun and fight against us. But as long as they have that minimum base level of comfort, they're going to think twice about shaking things up. Because they won't want to jeopardize their own comfort. And finally, we come down to strategy number 3, sowing division. This is like our last line of defense against people with free time on their hands. Since everyday average Americans have the numbers on their side, we have to find ways to divide them. Split them up into smaller groups. Make them argue amongst themselves, or even better, make them hate each other. That way they can't muster up enough support for any meaningful changes that would challenge us or the system. They won't be able to unite behind a promising new political candidate. They won't be able to organize a workers' union or start a petition. They are going to be too busy bickering amongst themselves, all the way to the point of absolute hate and disgust. This is another example of tribalism at work. We are going to exploit that. It's our job to make them focus on what makes them different instead of what they have in common. So here we are again with abortion. That just goes to show you how powerful this topic is. Abortion is like our trump card because it has so many uses. And one of the best ways to use it is to simply talk about it. Keep bringing it up. Put it on regular rotation on all the news networks and podcasts. Pay a church pastor to bring it up during the Sunday sermons. This is a great way to divide people. Because you're either for it or against it. And anybody who doesn't pick a side is going to have to sooner or later, because they just keep getting bombarded by it. Some people feel so strongly about this issue that their voting behavior revolves entirely around this one topic. Those people are called single-issue voters. They are incredibly useful to us because they can vote for a politician who will destroy everything else as long as they align on this one thing. And don't worry about us. We at the top will still have access to abortion no matter what happens. It's the regular folks who won't have access to it. But they don't need to know that. All they need to know is that Debbie across the street thinks that they are a psycho baby killer. You know what else is good for people to argue about? Race. Human beings are visual creatures. And race is such an easily identifiable difference that people just can't help but notice. It is one of the first things we learn about a person. And our brain has the tendency to try and fill in the gaps of what we don't know about them by taking shortcuts. That sometimes means making assumptions about people and attributing certain traits and behaviors to those kinds of people. It's not evil, it's just prejudice, it's profiling, and it happens automatically whether we want to admit it or not. It was a survival mechanism that helped us to survive in the wild a long time ago. But since it's still active in modern times, we can learn to take advantage of this survival mechanism. And all we have to do is push certain narratives. Through a combination of creative phrasing, storytelling, and highlighting, we can convince average Americans to hate or distrust entire swaths of people. Our latest method is to use immigration as a wedge to divide people up. Immigrants are the perfect boogeyman to scare people with because we can literally make up anything we want to say about them. And right there, in the same vein, we have marginalized groups like transgenders. This is the latest and greatest method in the distraction playbook. Transgenders make up less than 2% of the American population. But with the way we talk about them nonstop like they're such an immediate threat, it's enough to have you thinking that they're right next door trying to drill a hole through your wall at this very moment. And there's another transgender on top of your house trying to drill a hole through your roof. Obviously, that is not what's happening, but the truth doesn't matter. What matters is the content is outrageously distracting and controversial. Sexuality differences just gross people out. There is still so much we don't know or understand about human sexuality that what ends up happening is the whole discussion about this is a train wreck, and people love to stare at a train wreck. People will feel very strongly about it either one way or the other. That means it's a great tool for us to use to make them argue about it. Speaking of train wrecks, We really need to highlight headlines about crime. If you shove crime stories in people's faces all day, then they really start to distrust each other. They will believe that the entire world is out to get them. And that it's every man for himself. That way they are less likely to get together and unify. They are more likely to stay hidden and keep to themselves. They will also be more willing to justify the increase in budgetary spending for things like police officers and sheriff departments. We are going to talk about the police a lot more in Chapter 3. But for now, we just need to know that people are easier to control when they think crime is at an all-time high, even when it's not. It brews distrust, it brews hatred. And when they pour money into these police departments, it leads to even more people getting arrested. That then creates a nice pipeline of inmates who serve us at our various for-profit prisons and correctional facilities. Those inmates can then be used for what basically amounts to modern-day slave labor. That's because slavery was never fully abolished in this country. We just added more steps to it. And what could be more profitable than having a person basically work for free and not get paid? Okay, we are at the end of Chapter 1. So that means it is time to review the cause and effect of the strategies that we discussed today. Starting with the abortion ban. This is an ongoing effort, but the idea is to make people get so busy and stay busy so that they are unable to make any positive changes in their lives. They are instead forced to care of a baby, and they are ill-equipped for that challenge. Moving on to number 2, non-stop entertainment. This is how we help them balance the pain and suffering that they feel. All their struggles can melt away temporarily as long as they have something to watch on TV or on their cell phones. And finally, when we sow division, we are making people focus on their differences. Turn their greatest strength into their biggest weakness. That ensures that they do not cooperate with each other. It ensures they don't get together and start plotting our demise. They might even start to hate each other and vote against their own interests as long as it also means hurting the other guy. Makes sense, right? So that pretty much wraps it up for Chapter 1. We learned about how valuable it is to have a population that is too busy to do anything except try to keep themselves from drowning. And when they're not drowning, they're either watching TV or bickering amongst themselves. This means they're not going to protest, they're not going to boycott, they're not going on strike. And they're not going to organize any kind of resistance against us. All of this enables us to continue working them to death and cashing in on it. We talked about how there is actual science available to back up and support our methodologies, so we know they work. And we know how they work, and why they work. It just takes a little bit of effort on our part to get the ball rolling, and once that ball has some momentum behind it, it can be almost impossible for the average American to stop it. So, thanks for being a part of this wonderful community. We really have the best people on our side. And by best, I mean the richest. Please share this video with all of your rich millionaire and billionaire friends. Don't share it with any poor people because we don't want them to know that we are the reason why they are suffering. It's better for us at the top if the average American blames gays and lesbians for all of their problems. Be sure to check out Chapter 2 coming out soon, where we will talk about how to keep people poor. And make them so broke that they can barely afford their living expenses. It's a key piece in our overall strategy for ruling the country. So don't forget to like and subscribe, that way you won't miss out on it. Thanks a bunch.